cultures are much more different than Western cultures.
Diana, in Italy, language is also a problem, an issue, and Erasmus Plus can help to deal with it?
Of course, Erasmus Plus can help. I would like to distinguish between Erasmus Plus and Erasmus Plus ICM, which is for overseas programs. And I think this is a great improvement to international programs. Why? Because it is focused on specific research areas and projects. And so it involves teaching programs, but also research. It involves students, professors, and staff. And mobility is more effective. And also looking at Asia, as the colleague has done before, Erasmus is a prestige for Asian people, for Asian students and professors. And when they win a project with us, Europeans, they value us more. For instance, we have some projects with Russian university, one with Russian university, one with a Chinese university, Suzhou University. And because of this project, we were able to build an office in Russia, in Moscow, and one in Azerbaijan, where we also have Erasmus Plus ICM, and one in China. So it helps, it contributes to develop the strategic relations with other countries, with third countries. And so this is, Erasmus is prestige for these countries. But I would also like to say that it helps to internationalization of our programs, but not enough. Why? Because international agencies don't count mobility students. So in order to be really international, we should have students enrolled in our university, and not only mobility students, because these students are not counted. So either we convince the international agencies like US or Times Higher Education that students in mobility are international students of our universities, as well as enrolled students, or we have to convince our ministry to change their parameters. I think.
When you say that Erasmus Plus is not enough for that proposal,
it's not enough because.
Would you say that you need more Erasmus Plus, or other programs can complement?
I think the ICM should be improved. We should need more Erasmus ICM because this is a step forward. And it helps also to build international MA or double or joint programs, and and more stability maybe, and also more relation with the stakeholders, with the local and international stakeholders. Because when you apply for a project, of course you have to say which stakeholders are involved in this project, but it's theoretical. You say that in theory, but we should have more relations with the stakeholders, nationally and internationally. Yes, okay. Because this has an impact also on the placement, employability of our students. So I think this is very important. But I think Erasmus is a very good project because it helps also to internationalize also our staff.
Back to the language issue, Justina, of course, language is also a problem for Poland because not so many people speak Polish, I believe. How is Erasmus Plus helping?
Thanks to online linguistic platform, our students and other beneficiaries can improve their language skills. They choose, of course, English language, the most of them, but sometimes they also choose, for example, Portuguese, Italian. It depends, of course, on the country which they choose for their mobility for practical training or for studies. And in my opinion, this is a very good tool for this language skills. So thanks to Erasmus program, I think it's a concrete step this way for the implementation of our goals of the internationalization strategy. because when our students come back to our country, they are graduate of our university, we can, one way, improve our quality of education, because of course they meet with others, they try to, how to say, give some special topics and presentation, etc., etc. But we also improvement quality of work. They work as a future staff in our country. So first step is Erasmus, then languages, other practical skills, and then we can make better the knowledge triangle which consists of education, research and innovation. Everything because of the Erasmus program, we can say.
Okay, Annabella, and Tiziana mentioned the relation, the needs to attract every stakeholders. You must also attract, when you talk about internships, for instance, you must talk to companies, to enterprises. Is language also a problem in that case?
Well, language may be a problem, but Erasmus Plus gives the necessary funds to train our trainees and staff and trainers in language skills, so that they could go abroad and have their traineeships or internships or other placements abroad. So language is very important, but sometimes English is not just the language they need some other languages. And that's one of the questions raised when we monitor the national training providers. They need more, they expect more funds to raise the level of proficiency in skills in other languages except beyond English.
When foreign institutions, foreign universities, for instance, they look for partnerships with Portuguese institutions, do they also sometimes go through your department? I mean, or is it just at a university or a high school level?
Well, I'm representing the Ministry of Labor,
Yes.
not the Ministry of Science and
Yes.
Technology. So we don't receive universities' requests at the central administration. Normally, the VET providers in Portugal articulate with other training providers in other countries. They have their sectoral networks that they explore with other companies and so on. So those requests do not pass by my department.
So you don't get there are no companies, for instance, Portuguese companies that go through you asking for. Well, would like to have someone from here, from with those skills.
No, not at all. They go directly to their main partners in the sector.
Nicola, how is it in Italy? Do you receive? You represent an agency, so
vocational provider.
Yes, and are you? Do the companies directly address to you or
through EURES? I should say EURES and the new desk of EURES. So my first EURES job is quite the only active measure we received as a direct request from companies for workers or for internships in seasonal works or permanent works as well. So actually the EURES desk organized visits in the schools, in the vocational centers, with the companies that are searching for employees, and actually they meet directly students interested in such an opportunity, maybe those of the final years in case if it's a permanent position, or those in between also the third, fourth year if it's a summer job, for example. No? And it opens also the possibility to supply companies' needs for your own territory, because actually through a fish that you can fill with the requirements of your own territory, that's the point of interaction with stakeholders and companies, as we are a vocational provider owned by companies, stakeholders, institutions, union of industries and crafts and so on. So we do really have a strong link with stakeholders, no? So whenever is a need of a vocational profile not searchable in the territory, through EURES it opens a new window in countries in Europe where it's possible to search for the employees. So yes, in this case, yes. Except in this measure, no. There is not a direct contact from companies. They only are internships from schools or...
And how does this link with Erasmus Plus?
It integrates. I mean, EURES is a service of the European Union for the open job of the market. So actually, through my first EURES job is something like we present to every student that graduates from our vocational institutions, a school in our networks in Piedmont, we do present to them everything. So the Erasmus Plus, the EURES arena, the youth arena, so there are full of potential and possibilities for young people wanting to make such experiences abroad, not only Erasmus.
Yeah. Okay. Tiziana, you would like to add something?
To add something on the language. I think it's our responsibility to protect our languages. Of course, an international program first should be taught in English, because at international level, many students are not ready to come to our countries, Portugal, Italy, Spain, and so forth, with our languages. Our languages are not strong enough in Asia, for instance. But that's why we should promote them. And also in Italy, we are building a definition of international program. An international program could be in English, but also could be English and Italian. So we should lead the students toward the knowledge of our language. Otherwise, first of all, we are going to kill our languages, which is not good. Secondly, the international students cannot find a job in Italian or other companies because the people don't speak, not everybody speaks English. So I think it's important and our responsibility. And that's why through the Erasmus ICM, we promote the teaching of Italian language and culture.
Okay. Is there anyone who wants to ask some questions or to add something from different countries? Because we have here several countries, so perhaps it would be useful if you can share your opinions. So if anyone wants to talk, just make a sign. Okay, we have someone there. Please identify yourself, and if the question is for a specific member of the panel, please tell us.
Good morning. The question is for VET and for higher education at the same time, because we are a chamber of commerce. We are very active in European project, and now we are working.
You are from
Spain.
Ah, okay.
Okay, and but we have a problem when we work with VET because there is no recognition at European level as in higher education after the process of Bologna. So, for example, I don't know if 1 hour in Italy is the same hour in Spain for the early charge, and now we are in a project in a sector skill alliance in advanced manufacturing, and we are trying to define a common European CV in the country involved, sure, but it's very difficult because we have in Spain 2 years and in Italy 5 years, so how we can manage it? What do you think? It's not possible for the internationalization of that to follow the example of higher education for the credit, for example, because it's true that mobility boost, enhance internationalization, but then if we don't have common path, it's very difficult to guarantee, to enhance a fast-track integration, for example, in labor market or in the same country or in another country. So this is my question.
Okay. Thank you. We'll later in the afternoon we'll address that issue again. But for now, if any one of you can add something, please.
Follow this lead. Institutions should follow this lead as ECIVT, that is for the afternoon panel, but doesn't allow the portability of credits. Is highly used for recognizing the experience abroad within the curriculum of study of the participants of Erasmus+. So it's a very good instrument, gives good results, but the points associated to this dispositive in the beginning when it was set up is a failure. So no one is using it or very few institutions, and elsewhere is not portable because actually is not like ECTS internationally recognized through treaties. So actually, is a good lead to follow.
Do you want to add in Poland? You have this question as well.
We are not representing the VAT, so it's difficult to.
But and Justina,
for us, ECTS points are the best. We can make any mobility. But now I am thinking about certificates. Maybe certificates or other confirmation. It could be maybe a tool for you. Certificate which our abiturients and others can add to their curricula when they want to get a good job. So maybe this way you can find a solution for such a collaboration.
But it's very difficult because the unification of the, let's say, standardization, it's still not ready. Even on the European level, sometimes we face some problems. Of course, in some areas, this is better organized, but in some still, like in medical faculties or something, we still face some difficulties with that, and we have to obey. So I think it's a work to be done in fields of the standardization and, equal recognition of the certificates and the degrees, right? So that's a long process.
Should this be included in the national strategies?
I do think so also because it's not just a point of employment. VET is highly focused on employment, prepare better and very well for employment, but it's not only employment. VET is studying as well and specific and professional topic, tasks and processes. So actually this dispositive can implement this weakness of the VET system because as a second choice feeling in Europe as VET is recognized cannot be implemented with our own forces. Internationalization is one thing, we can work highly on that, but we need institutional support, strategies, policies and guidelines to follow. We cannot do by ourselves. That's the failure of ECIVT. It left the bottom-up approach and yes, it's a good quality assurance measure, but that's it. Is nothing more.
Annabella, okay, I'll go back to you. Okay.
Hello, I'm Beata from the Polish National Agency. I just want to add something to this, to what has been said, especially in relation to possibilities to have something like Bologna process and some European strategy or European policy for recognition of credits in the VAT system. To the best of my knowledge, these discussions has been held for many years, and only as well in my country there is a continuing discussion what to do in order to these two systems, ECTS and ECVET or ECVET, to cooperate and to cooperate with each other. And it will not be possible because these two systems are based on different approaches. ECTS is taking into account the contact hours with the students, and ECVET is based on blocks of qualifications which are accumulated by a learner in order to obtain a full official qualification enabling to do a profession. Yeah? So I don't know if there will be any possibility to make these two systems cooperating. And in my opinion, it is the best way to combine these two systems is only to allow both sectors, that mean higher education sector and vet sector, only to cooperate with each other. And in fact, there is a bigger task for higher education, how to recognize something which is accumulated by a learner in EC vet credits for the higher education academic performance of a student. And this should be these solutions should be looked for in each country, because what we are doing in Europe, we are cooperating. We are looking for synergies, for harmonization, but there is no common educational European policy. It's great that we have programs like Erasmus, because under this program we can make projects, we can make, we can look for a common solution within the partnerships, within the networks, but later on everything should be reflected in the national laws. Yeah. And in my opinion, now it is a big plea for you. If you are in partnerships for knowledge alliance, yes, sector skill alliances. This is the pan-European project, and your recommendations that something is wrong within Europe in order if something should be done for Europe for the VAT sector to have solutions similar to ECTS system in higher education, to the Bologna process, to the higher education, European higher education area, you should write it in recommendations. Because what you can do is to underline that there are problems hampering cooperation between countries in relations to VAT sector. Thank you.
Thank you.
Some clarification. SETS is not based on contact hours, but on the workload of students, which means much more than the...
If I said contact hours, it's not true. Okay. It's a workload of students. Maybe it is because I get nervous a little bit. But of course, ECTS is based on workload of the students, leading to gaining learning outcomes. Yeah.
Okay. And in our education, imagine in some nursing, for instance, there are some European standards that we are used to recognize in our education. So it's not impossible to use this methodology. Of course, it's more customized in VET, but I think somehow it's possible to have an approach of using that. Or imagine for engineers, we have to deal with professional orders. There are some standards at European international level or looking for masters. There are several international associations, not only European, that recognize this type of competences and learning outcomes. I think, and this is not easy.
But it's possible.
It's possible. Even at the Erasmus level, one of the main problems, and if you look to the study that Professor Mário Val will present in the afternoon, one of the main obstacles is the recognition by the outgoing institutions of the SETS. Some teachers have the approach that the program should be equal. But the Erasmus spirit is not that. It's based on learning outcomes and the area. So that's why I'm talking the environment within the organization that favors the internationalization process. So I think this approach could be used, is more difficult, but I think this is not impossible to use it using SETS. And if you look to abroad Europe, Brazil, Angola, even in Asia, they are starting to use the SETS approach to not to harmonize. I think the word is not harmonizing, it's comparability and give more mobility across. We are dealing with multinational firms more and more. And that's why in several cases it's not difficult to find an internship, because we are dealing with international firms or multinational firms that have branches across the world. And it's more easy to have this comparison across Europe and in other countries that provides a better, I will say, understanding of what higher education is and what kind of learning outcomes the students have.
Annabella, you are an expert also in migration, and you have been dealing with and nowadays we talk a lot about migrations, well, from abroad, from Africa, and so, but also within the European Union. Is this a problem? The recognition? How do you look at this issue?
Well. The problem of recognition, it's in VET, it's about the recognition of qualifications and not only about the training that the migrants or the other people from European Union come to Portugal and go abroad. So for that we have, for Europe, we have a directive that applies to the recognition of a qualification, professional qualifications, that there is a broad system to citizens may apply when they want to go abroad to get their professional qualifications recognized. Regarding training, the professional training, as I said before, there are also sectoral networks that are established between Europe and all over the world also. And that through that network, a migrant or a citizen from other country can see its professional qualifications or its VET recognized. So it is not, maybe sometimes it's a problem because